Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Alright, X, it's time for some Innawoods stories. They can be yours or a photo post. They can be about skinwalkers, demons, ghosts, humanoids, anything paranormal or frightening. And make sure they're super spooky. I live in central Kentucky. Around here the biggest animal I've seen has been the occasional elk. I'm a commando, so I love my guns. Personally, the best multi-purpose gun to have around in Kentucky is the .270 Winchester, so I had ye old 270 out deep in the woods about 4 months ago. I was camping in my Ford Ranger with a topper I'd just recently purchased. I loved it being out in the woods with my gun just shooting around, until night fell. I was about ready to crawl into my topper and close the hatch when I hear a blood-curdling scream. I jump out 270 in hand ready to shoot, when I saw it. It was what looked like a dog gorilla and human mix. It was sniffing violently and stopped immediately when it saw me. I backed up to my truck's door, aimed and fired. I hit that son of a bitch. Right in the neck to be exact. But to my surprise the bullet bounced off as if it hit a sheet of metal. Fuck this. I jumped in my truck and speed off. I could have sworn the thing chased me until I got off the dirt road onto the main road. I haven't been camping since.
Well, there's a lot more Kentucky on here than I thought. What specific parts of Kentucky are you guys from? I'm currently living in Monticello, Kentucky, southeast, close to Somerset, Cumberland Lake right next to me. Just recently, 2 of my former coworkers said they had seen a mountain lion out in Braunston, which is between Monticello and Somerset. I'm dying to see one, but I haven't yet. If anyone is familiar with Monticello, you know it's extremely small. I live pretty far out and away from both towns up in the hills. We just got DSL internet here a couple of months ago. I was stuck on dial-up for a year when I moved here. So, it's kind of like I'm permanently camping. You guys know you need a tough set of balls to live this far out because I've seen some shit. It started off with some of the strange howls I've been hearing. I've always lived rural except when I went to college, so I'm familiar with the many calls you'd hear in this area. There's something very large out in these woods that triggers the coyotes to freak out and yip off into the distance. It's a deep, hoarse scream that lasts about 8 to 10 seconds. For a while I thought it was just bear calls that I wasn't familiar with, but then during the dead of winter I was still hearing it. For those who don't know, bears hibernate. A couple of months ago, dead of winter, I bought some really cool headlamps, you know, like what a spelunker might wear on their head. I got home and tested one out after dark. I walked out to the edge of my yard in stealth mode because it was dark and eerie. I heard it before I saw it. I heard big crunching noises on the ground pretty far off, so I turned the light out on my headlamp so I could get a little closer without startling whatever it was that I was hearing. At this point I was at the tree line of the property looking into the woods. I clicked the light back on and shit myself when I saw a red eye shine up far too tall to be deer, and deer have white eye shine anyway, and there was a really nasty stench that I had been smelling for a little while already, but it was really strong by this time. It was like a cross between something rotting and a wet, dirty dog. I didn't know what to do at the time, so I just stood there like a moron watching these eyes in the dark. I couldn't make out what the rest of it was. The eye shine disappeared and I could hear whatever it was crunching leaves moving away from me. I ran like hell back to the house. I was so scared I forgot to watch out for the barbed wire fence and slammed it real good, which hurt like hell. Later, I thought it might have been an owl up in a tree or something, but that doesn't explain the obvious footsteps and the smell. It bothers me because I couldn't see the whole animal, so I'll always wonder what it was.
This isn't really about any encounters with strange creatures, but more the feeling of being somewhere you're not supposed to be. I live in small town surrounded by forests and fields, 13 kilometers away from the big city and 5 kilometers away from nearest town. Go to boarding school. I'm special. Annual track marathon. Walk with friends through the trail leading into the woods. Divert from the path because the team leader is awesome. Get to the beach. The forest merges with the beach. Trail over rocky path past beach houses. Trail leads up to forest, steep as fuck, hurts much. Divert from the trail again, passing some lesser attractive houses. All mossy and spoopy looking. Walk up a trail to a deep forest. Pass a fucking spoopy house that just screams, "You will die here." The house was wooden, overgrown, shattered windows, mossy, and it just looked like something from a horror movie. No one else seemed bothered by it, but I just felt this gut-wrenching nausea. I truly felt like something was terribly wrong with that house. It was located so deeply into the forest and the nearest road was kilometers away. The path that we used to pass this house didn't exist until somewhere around 1976, where the school was established. Beach houses and nearby houses were built around the same time period and up. Someone was definitely killed in that house.
Note first. This photo wasn't taken by me. We didn't really bring any technology for this trip. The picture is probably somewhere near where we did it. The story probably isn't too spooky either. Sorry. 2006. B24. Live in Bulgaria. Decide to go camping with some friends. Pick out southwestern Bulgaria as the desired location. Huge forest areas. Borders to different countries that aren't marked or patrolled. Not really bringing any technology with us, but lots of food. The first few days are pretty cool, basically looking for the best spot we can find ATM. Mainly relying on rations, but we did catch a few fish from a small stream. Laugh a lot. Talk about good times and drink. Third day, we make it to some hills which look over this mountainside and a valley, near a small stream. Very beautiful place, so we stuck around, set up camp, and we plan on staying here for 5 days or something. Another day goes by. We spend a lot of it bathing and playing P&P with some D6 and a homemade system. In the night we chill in the grass, chat and draw a bit. Hear something by the stream nearby, like a bit down the hill and past some bushes. There's brown bears in the area, so we assume they might be trying to find fish or something. We pull back to the top of the hill, then yell a bit to keep them from wandering up here. The thing books it out of here loudly, which seems a bit odd. Shrug it off as nothing. We don't really have trash by our campsite, so we should be set. Night goes by quietly, clear sky and everything. Next morning we bury the food we have a bit under the ground in the outer perimeter of the campsite, and we decide to go explore a bit. Mainly bring some water and some fruits. In the direction we head it mainly seems like some more woodlands, but not dense enough for us to be unable to leave clear marks of our path. I remember this story pretty well because I wrote it down when we got home. I used to keep a diary to keep track of my life. Between work and friends, the days had a tendency to flow by me without me noticing, which at some point began to freak me a bit out. Anyways, the trees here are pretty tall too. We saw some sleeping bats, which was pretty interesting. Unfortunately, we woke them up and they all flew away. Find some blueberries, too. Around 12, so we sit down and grabbed a drink and ate the berries we found, and talked a bit about life. One of the guys, Milan, says he thinks we should be careful if there's bears around. He doesn't like it too much. Another friend jokes that it probably wasn't bears. We chuckle a bit but eventually agree to stay together and focus on not having food laying around and stuff. Not like we did before. Continue onwards. The place gets really hilly for a bit. The forest thins out. Trees are a bit shorter. Younger. After walking around for a bit, we reach a more flat area, still with short trees. There's a super down-trodden graveyard here, no road or any paths. Most of the names are unrecognizable. Evgenia Lazarov, a lovely mother and wife. Silva Lazarov, a kind and beloved daughter. 3 other gravestones. One is pretty much completely broken. The other 2 only have a few readable letters. Look around for a bit. We all think it is pretty cool, but one of the girls and I find it a bit unsettling, too. Very close by, there's a small spot with no trees. Move the leaves around a bit. Find some spots of stone. Assume it's a building foundation or something. Dig around for half an hour. It's about time we go back. Still feel a bit uncomfortable, like the feeling of being watched. We head back over the hills with ease. When we reach the more forested area, we follow the red snares we've been hanging in the trees. Don't see as many animals or birds anymore. Still a few here and there. Hear rustling again. Bears? Someone immediately asks. One of the girls yell for it to basically fuck off. As soon as she does, she books it again. It still makes a lot of noise just by running. Hard to identify if it's a bear or a deer. When we reached the small collection of berry bushes, which were still rich with berries, it was completely cleaned off. Silva jokes that it's not happy that we stole its berries. I laugh a bit, then realize how uncomfortable everyone else is about it. Perhaps I was just coping with it. I'm still not really sure. A few of the red threads have been pulled down, those who hung on thin branches mainly. The guy who had been doing it, Milan, says they usually fell down because of the wind if he hadn't tied it tightly enough. We know it's just bullshit. I do anyways. The rest of the trip back was pretty tranquil. I feel a lot more at ease. Seems like the others did too. The camp was still alright, and it's pretty much getting dark, so we lit a fire and prepared some rations and stuff. The buried food crates were fine. Anyways, that's pretty much how far the spooks went. We were a bit uneasy, and I'm sure most of the others had problems sleeping like I did. We also kept watch the next day, but nothing happened. Other than that, the rest of the trip was pretty nice. We went hiking after packing our stuff and then headed home. The other girl drew a pretty good sketch from the top of the small mountain, and my barbarian was the first character in our PNP campaign to die that day. Rip Thora Farstep. Once again sorry that the story isn't very spooks.
My house is surrounded by woods. I live in rural Alabama, so we don't have large animals besides deer. For the longest time I used to hear animals screaming in pain or moaning some nights. Nothing I've ever heard before. It was loud, and I would find blood and disturbed ground near my house occasionally. Then I started seeing large shadows in the trees. I told myself to stop overthinking it. One night I heard the screaming, very close to my house. I grabbed my shotgun and slowly walked outside. I saw 2 shadows dart into the woods. The next day I found a trail of blood. I followed it about half a mile into the woods until it stopped at a large dying stump. It had been hollowed out by something with claws. I felt like something was watching me. Inside was covered in blood, still kinda wet. Pretty freaked out I left. One night not too long after I saw a light in the woods. I got my gun and lantern and ran out into the woods. Without realizing it I came to the stump. It was on fire, totally engulfed. That's when I heard something circling me. I ran back home in terror, too afraid to look behind me or to put out the fire. The noises stopped. I never went back out there, but always wondered what was fighting what and which one survived, let alone could start a fire.
This is not a paranormal story, as most would think of as paranormal. I was out at a public hunting range hunting turkey. I was using my 50 calories muzzleloader and had a good friend along with me. For those not familiar, this muzzleloader packs a huge powder charge held in place by a bullet fitted tightly in the barrel. The rifle kicks like a mule and shoots a huge cloud of smoke behind the bullet. Not sure this will make much sense to anyone without a little firearm knowledge, but I'll try. Before heading into the woods, we loaded our rifles. Powder down the barrel, and I rammed the bullet down the barrel. I put a primer in the breech plug and set out ready to shoot. Having followed some gobbling, we came up on a few turkeys. I aimed my rifle, fired, and nothing happened. Nothing at all. I figured it was a bad primer, so changed it out quickly and lined up another shot. I pulled the trigger again and nothing. I just froze for a second, wondering what was going on. The turkeys looked at me, gobbled, and took off. I checked the barrel and my powder and bullet were gone. Stunned, I turned to my friend to ask his opinion. I saw him about 50 yards behind me lying on the ground. I had to shake him awake and he had no idea why he was on the ground. My powder and bullet disappeared without so much as a puff of air from 2 primers. My friend took a quick nap in the woods for no reason. We went home and haven't really spoken of it again.
Thank God this thread is still open. I'm gonna preface this story by saying I have no reason to lie. Lying on 4chan has zero benefits. What, am I gonna look cool to strangers? Anywho, a bit of info. The Saturday before last I had the weekend to myself, so I decided to go fishing and camping with my dog at a state park in Texas near Houston. I got there Friday, and for the most part nothing unusual happened despite me genuinely hoping for some good spoops. This story takes place at about 6 p.m. Saturday and 3 a.m. Sunday. Loading a few logs into the fire pit about to get dinner started. Then from what looks like straight out of the woods comes a guy. Dressed really business casual. Khakis, short-sleeved button-up, loafers, kinda like how you'd imagine a doctor dresses on vacation, kinda. Very plain guy, think of the typical picture of a man from the 50s. Busy weekend, every campsite near me was occupied, so I didn't find it too surprising that dude just popped up. What was weird though is that my dog, a 19-week-old puppy who's usually friendly as hell to people, at worst she'll bark once or twice all while wagging her tail. Not this time. Full on, teeth bared, ears back, hackles. The hairs on their back that stand up when they're angered, up, tail straight, defense mode. Guy doesn't pay her any attention. After a few seconds I say, "Hey, buddy, can I do something for ya?"
You should come with me.
Chills go down my spine and I reply, sorry man. I was just about to go meet up with someone. I wasn't, but I had to excuse out without saying he creeped me the fuck out. Get in my car and back out. Check rear view. He's staring at me the whole time I'm driving away. Come back about a few minutes later after buying some meat, guy's gone, so I get started on dinner once again. Skip to about 3 a.m. the next morning. Couldn't sleep, so I went to get night fishing done. Sit on a dock by a boat ramp. Facing the water and my dog starts growling. It's that guy. Man is standing at the top of the boat ramp, reach for knife I brought with me. Hey, how's it going, man? A few quiet seconds pass, he says.
Come with me.
Calls me by name.
You'll be happier where I am.
I jump up and prepare to book it when he just starts calmly walking down the boat ramp. Hits the water and doesn't break his stride. He just walks straight into the lake like it was the sidewalk. Once his head disappears from sight, I start freaking out. I called park security and told them I just saw a man walk straight into the water. Stay calm and return to your campsite immediately. Fuck that. Hide behind a tree and watch. Just one camp patrol guard shows up. Walks back and forth in front of the boat ramp mumbling, then gets back on his golf cart after about 20 minutes of this. Decide that I've had enough, packed up the car and went home at 5 in the morning.
First time here on 4chan and X, so I don't know what all this stuff about skinwalkers and Innawoods shit is about, but I will share my story. I lived with my parents in an old house. My room was in the basement of our house and light barely made it in there, at night or day. My parents are away for weekend, so I bring my laptop and a few snacks to my room and watch a few movies, mostly horror movies. So it's about 1 to 2 a.m. and I hear footsteps upstairs. The hallway was right above the basement and anytime someone walked in it made lots of noise. I close my laptop and lock the basement door. I ran back down, feeling freaked out because I left the door open and someone was in the house, so I stayed up in the darkness until morning. Not a wink of sleep. I called the cops and my parents the next day. My parents were coming home next day, and found our house completely wrecked. Went in my parents' room to wait for police. The door to the basement was covered by a curtain because it was in the middle of the hallway, and it looked bad. When police came they found my neighbor, 70 years old, dead in our backyard. Turns out he had a heart attack and was looking for help. I felt really bad. We moved houses and I pass by my old house sometimes when going to school and always remember that time.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.